One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Let's pick up our conversation with Dave Hart, Special Advisor to Athletics at East Carolina University. One further question along those lines, in those times as a leader, when information is given to you by your trusted associate, right? They give you information and make suggestions, and you have to think about it and process that information to make a decision. If there's been a time when a decision, for example, maybe the chancellor or the president or even some of the constituency, they were probably thinking a different direction in the decision, but you had to make it based on what you knew was good for the program. What is the reconcile process, especially if you've had to make a decision that the chancellor wasn't necessarily on board with, but you knew and you could explain why it was best for the program? How does that work when you in that high level of a discussion when you're talking to the CEO of a college institution and you're over athletics?
Right. It's a good question. And it goes back to the word I've already used. It goes back to communication and trust. And I've been very, very fortunate to work for some terrific chancellors. The last chancellor I worked for, Jimmy Cheek, was absolutely phenomenal in terms of my role was to keep Jimmy informed about everything, not let him be blindsided. My role was to present to Jimmy ways to get better in the areas that we felt like needed a lot of work, financially, academics. We had some hills to climb, but we climbed them together, and there was a great bond of trust. He's the boss. If at the end of the day he said, Dave, I just don't think we ought to move in that direction, then that discussion ended, and I moved on to the next challenge and the next, because I think it's important. That chain of command is very important. This is an extraordinarily complex profession compared to what it was even 5 years ago. So I think you need someone in that leadership chair relative to athletics as well as the university who understands all the aspects of those challenges. Most presidents and chancellors, they didn't sign up for spending 60% of their time on athletics issues, So you have to understand that they need that AD's help. They need that AD's trust and vice versa to wade into some of the issues that crop up. And as long as that relationship is present, I've told many younger ADs who called for advice and so on, maybe they had a job in front of them but they loved where they were. One of the things I've always said to them, Ty, is if you have a trusting, communicative relationship with your president or chancellor, get your head off of the swivel, because nothing is more important than that relationship. Together, you can conquer and handle anything that comes your way. If you don't have a trust factor there, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to go where you want to go collectively. So that relationship is so very important. And again, I've always felt strongly about, and I've worked with coaches in this respect, you need to understand that chain of command. You need to have open dialogue with the person you report to, your boss. I use a great example, and I could quote many during my career, but Rick Barnes, who's now the basketball coach at Tennessee. Rick Barnes is a really good coach. He's a terrific person. So to have that level of trust and communication, and if the answer is no after a reasonable conversation, you walk out. The answer is no. You go to the next thing. You don't go to the next person who can maybe overrule that. You accept it and you move on, and that bond of trust grows and grows and grows. If there are cracks that begin to show, then that's where problems magnify.
Right, and that brings you to another decision. I'd imagine that no decision was made without the informing process from beginning through end. So nothing was ever a surprise, and the
That's
chancellor
correct.
or president always knew what direction you were going to go anyway.
Always, and I said the same thing to head coaches and athletic staff is, look, I want your opinions, and I want to help you grow. I want to help you reach your destination. I think there are 23 or 24 people I've had the privilege to work with who are now in those leadership roles. Right. By the same token, yes, that conversation has to be what you just articulated. Just don't let me get surprised. Right. Inform me, share with me, give me your opinions, but take away the surprises. And I trusted people to do their jobs, Ty. I learned that early on. You hire good people. You do not micromanage them. You let them make mistakes. That's how we all learn. That's how we all grow. You praise them when they do well. You help them when they make mistakes. It's not brain surgery. It goes back to how you treat people matters.
Right. I agree with that. Well, in those 35 years, you had to make tough decisions, and you learn from each decision and understand that communication is best. And how have you taken that? You've started this new venture, Athletic Legacy Partners. Tell me how that experience and making those tough decisions and everything you learned in your experience goes into this new venture that you're doing.
Well, and that's exactly why I entered into this LLC, Athletics Legacy Partners. I named it as a tribute to my father, actually. For a long time, our family was the only family with 3 generations of athletics directors. My very dear friend Kevin White and the White family they're racing right alongside of us, right, yeah. Which is really neat. And it's that lineage is something that is very special. But what I wanted to do, Ty, to your question, I wanted to use those 35 years of experience. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in those 35 years. And I wanted to help the profession and help the leadership in the profession. My focus was leadership development, executive coaching, going into campuses and meeting with their AD and his or her executive staff and the student athlete leadership team, the captain's table, or the SAC at each institution of student athlete leaders and the whole staff. Because my message to the whole staff is everybody in the room is important to us if we're going to reach our goal. If a segment pull against everyone else, then it won't work. Those people who are pulling in the other direction they're not for long in the organization because you can't get there when that is happening. So that was and remains the core of what I'm doing. I've been blessed to work with some entities outside of athletics who touch athletics and want advice on athletics and how do we get more involved and can you help lead us down that path. I've enjoyed a few of those relationships that I've formed. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it very much. Again, this opportunity at East Carolina is very special to me for a lot of reasons, and I appreciate the Chancellor Staten reaching out to me about that. It's exactly what I want to do, and I get to do it on a little longer term at East Carolina, a place, again, where Pam and I spent 12 years. Our 3 children were all raised there, went to the same high school, so it's extra special to have this opportunity to help East Carolina in any way that I can.
All right. And I did want to ask you just really briefly about that East Carolina thing you've taken on. It's from the outside looking in, it looks like you came in there and to help, really, like you said, with leadership development, help to advise the president and the athletics department on direction and some of the things they wanted to do. With your background, I imagine is an asset to them at East Carolina. It sounds like you're excited to be there, and it sounds like something you're really interested in doing.
I really am. There are still a lot of people there that we know, of course. It's a community that is absolutely a fantastic community to live in, to raise children in. And the passion there is tangible. And they've had some bumps in the road, and I hope that I can, in any way possible, help and as you said, advise the Chancellor as needed from his perspective. I'll still continue to fulfill other obligations that I have, and he was very good about that. But now I will back off taking on anything new at the moment, and so that I can devote my full attention to the things that are priorities, the things I'm committed to, and especially to give my full attention to what the Chancellor of East Carolina wants me to do in this advising role.
Well, I'm sure you probably settled the heart of the president there at East Carolina, and they definitely have brought on an asset to help them in finding direction. Dave, I definitely want to thank you for joining us here on One Question Podcast. It seems like you've provided a lot of information that people can glean and learn to do as they develop themselves as leaders.
Well, I appreciate it, Ty. You've been very kind. And again, a lot of great people in this profession, a lot of great people in Greenville. I've enjoyed being a part of this profession and hope that my last chapter can be this effort, and that I can look back and feel good that I've given back to the profession that our whole family has devoted most of their adult lives to.
Yes, sir. That was Dave Hart. He runs Athletic Legacy Partners, and he spent almost 35 years in college athletics, most of that time as an athletic director. And this is Ty Brown with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.